Okay, I'll try this again. I had some troubles here the first time I taped this. I didn't record it all. Now, what I'm focusing on that has to do with change this week has to do with this book, the supplemental reading on organizational change, an action-oriented toolkit. This has been a great tool for me for this class. I really like this even more so than the required books, which I've also read. What I want to focus on, though, I thought at first was the reflection part of change, although I'll incorporate that in what I am going to focus on. And then the second part of that was also what I thought about focusing on was the formation and use of change teams, or team building. However, what I'm going to focus on now encompasses all of that, and it's the action planning tools, which there's 8 different sections here in the action planning tools that were used in this book. The first is to-do lists. I don't know about you, but I'm the type that, I'll fold old pieces of paper together and I'll create to-do lists. Here's what I need to do today. Here's what I need to do this week. This is the same that goes, and this is a simple approach to creating lists, brainstorming things that need to take place in order for change to occur. So, we did this as a group that started to assess, okay, here's the advisory program the year before we want to present it. Here's the things we have to do before we even present it to our staff, and then after we present it. So, we were making lists of visiting Franklin Pierce High School in Tacoma. We did that because one of our associate principals, who was the real change agent, she had a friend up there that was the principal. He welcomed us up there, and we went up there for their student-led conferences. And we did this especially because it was a high school that was similar to ours as far as demographics goes and socioeconomic standing. So that was one reason we went up there. And we wanted to see the success and some of the challenges they faced, which we would ask not only the principal but teachers. So this was one thing we did. And then, we also, on that to-do list, we have to roll this out. Well, first we have to become educated about the advisory program. And then who and how are we going to roll this out or present it to our staff? I was selected just for the main reason because I had taught middle school and I knew what the people's perceptions or negative connotations to advisory was. So that's why I was selected. Now, I made sure to present that it wasn't a touchy-feely, let's play game, let's know Billy, let's hold hands, and all this. It was more of a program that we wanted to prepare our kids for high school and beyond. We wanted them to create a portfolio to show their transcripts, their best works in each class, their goal beyond high school, their goals during high school. Also career planning. So all these things, kids love to share about themselves, and they were able to share these at the student-led conferences. So to me, it was such a great idea. I knew kids love to share things. It prepares them to sell themselves, as we call it, once we get into the business world. And, the teacher's role, really what made it kind of cool was teachers realized their role was preparing them for these conferences, but they were kind of on the sidelines when the kid presented to their parent or guardian or whoever that was. Okay? So, those were some of the to-do list things we had to do. We had to create who was making the copies to put these binders together for the teachers. And then we had to get all these binders together for the students, make sure we had all these copies for each date that we were supposed to hand them out, so they may get transcripts in this date and this date. Put them in their folders, their goals, their career things, their best works. You need to have them by this time. So that was the role of the teacher. It was to help kids put these binders together, these portfolios, and present them. So that was the first part. The to-do list was the first part of the action planning tool. Then we created a responsibility chart. Okay, Chris does this, Mick does this, Kathy, Kim, etc. You know, we included other people in there because we did other things, making copies, making sure the binders were out. We wanted to make sure we knew exactly what we were doing in each phase of this program. When we rolled it out, when we were creating the curriculum, when we gave all the teachers their binders. And when I say binders, their individual binder for every lesson with lesson plans, plus the binders for every kid in their advisory. Okay, so we had to get all that out before school started the following year. And then all their copies were made a day or two before the advisory session. So we'd have 2 in September, 2 in October, 2 in November. Okay, then we go to contingency planning. Now that's the third part of action planning tools. And that's really when especially Kim, the change agent, and Kathy, our principal, they looked at different scenarios that may unfold, and we plan, especially we plan to, how would I put this, we plan to face those particular hurdles with alternative plans. We always, okay, what if, you know, so many teachers are gone? Then the administrators fill in when we do the lesson plans. What if a particular plan, like Plan 4 for juniors, bombs? That's fine. We make a note of that, collect all the data, and we change that particular lesson the next year. Okay, so we always wanted to understand things may go wrong. How are we going to deal with those things? Let's have an alternative plan. So that was called the contingency planning portion of action planning. Now, the fourth tool in action planning is the use of surveys. Now, surveys are awesome. They can collect a lot of data in a short period of time. That's the great thing about them. You pass them out, you know, after lesson 1, you have the students fill it out, the teacher, you know, and there was 2 separate ones, so we had the surveys for teachers, so we'd have, you know, however many, 50 of those, then you'd have a ton of the student surveys, but we gathered the information. Now, we kept those simple. You know, rate this lesson on, you know, poor, average, good, great, or whatever, and then with a comment. There's 1 or 2 comments they could put, you know, with some feedback, and then we used that particular feedback to evaluate each lesson and make changes where needed. Okay, so again, but we had to make sure, we want to make sure that the questions, the evaluation of each lesson were specific to the point. We didn't want to give them a survey, you know, 10-page survey. Let's keep it simple. Now the next part is a project planning and critical path methods. And this is where, okay, part of our program was sequential. Okay, we went from lesson 1 to lesson 2 to lesson 3 to lesson 4, each grade level. That's sequential. However, we did partial parallel delivery or methods. We also use that where things overlap. Okay, some of us visited Franklin Pierce while others prepared documents that we received from them. Well, no, and I should say it this way. Some went to Franklin Pierce, and then others at that same time were preparing for rolling out this whole advisory program. I was doing that at the same time. And then we got back from that, we have my presentation, and some people were looking at some of the lessons, how we're going to roll those out, and then creating also at that same time these responsibility charts. Who's going to lead the senior lesson plans and make sure they're all okay? Who's going to lead the junior, the sophomore, the freshman lesson plans, making sure they're all okay? So we were doing a lot of things to begin with before we even started the program. But a lot of those things were partially parallel. They were overlapping. Okay, I was the one that did, I was the head of the senior advisory lesson plans to look at those and evaluate them. Now the next part, the 6th part, is the force field and stakeholder analysis. And this really is where, first of all, the force field analysis is when the change agent specifies for and against change. So Kim really, what she did was identified, okay, here's our staff. She thought for the most part, they're going to be pretty receptive to change, although it's going to be on that continuum. We also knew we had some laggards. What our hope was by identifying the next part, stakeholder analysis, by identifying people like myself who, yes, I was doing my administrative internship, but remember, Kim and I had a good relationship. That spread to those that I coach football with and baseball with. So in their departments, it spread to other people. Chris says it's a pretty good program, has looked at it, and he's did middle school. And so it kind of spread throughout. And really, it was one of those things. This was a program that was lead, follow, or get the heck out of the way. Because our staff, and it wasn't slowly but surely, they bought in. And it spread pretty quick. A buzz spread throughout the year, especially when we got towards March when we did the student-led conferences. Kim was guided by, and this is from organizational change, she was guided by the acronym ADA, or AIDA, A-I-D-A. The A stands for awareness of the issues. She understood this was going to be a tough one. I think it went much better than she thought, though, because I think there was more buy-in even from the start, and I'm hoping to interview her this week. The second part, the I, is the interest in change. We had to create an interest that, hey, the bottom line, this is the best thing for our kids to prepare them beyond high school. The D part is desiring action. It was almost like getting us ready for a game. We had to have some excitement about this to get this thing going. And then the last part, the A, action or adopting the change. Okay? The action went along with the buy-in, we had the materials, and then we put this program in place, which went very well. Now, the next part is the leverage analysis. This is the seventh part, and this seeks to identify those actions that will create the greatest change with the least effort. Or, as I said earlier, and this is Burke, from also Burke in this book. Burke puts it, change agents need to find a few critical individuals that connect with others in a way that tips things into a new reality. Okay, so she identified me, some other people from other departments. Kim had good relationships with many people in our building, throughout our building, in different departments. I spread the news. Someone else did in the English department, chemistry, wherever, PE. And then, it was one of those commercials, I can't remember that one commercial, where it was, they tried it, and so on, and so on, and so on. So many people got on board, and granted, there were some laggards, but it went well. For the most part, the buy-in was tremendous. And by the end of the year, during the student-led conferences, even those laggards who were still kind of lagging were kind of bummed because they didn't prepare their kids. And they were kind of, I hate to admit it this way, almost kind of exposed for their lack of detail in some aspects, because the rest of us, our kids, were very detail-oriented. We got them ready, we practiced the interview, the student-led conference. Now, the last part, the last tool in this is other change management tools. And really, these are just like other charts, cause and effect, histograms, control charts, scatter diagrams that help in the analysis of a program, if the change is working or not. We use really basic surveys to assess our program, make changes where needed. Again, this, and the last part, I have a few more seconds here. It also played, the other two parts that I talked about in the beginning of my presentation, I wanted to do something on reflection. However, we reflected along the way. By reflecting, we also celebrated wins. This went really well, way to go. It was really that athletic acronym, or that athletic idea of patting people on the back. Great job. Especially during SLCs, there was a lot of high fives, and there was a definite buzz throughout the district, and district office loved what we had done. And also that team the creation of team building wasn't critical. Many teams were built together. A lot of teachers took it upon themselves to team teach together, bring their advisories together, do things together, help each other out. So again, action planning tools, there was 8 of them. 7 really important ones. The last one just kind of throwing some things in. From the organizational change and action-oriented toolkit, which I really have enjoyed. Thank you again.